Servius Sulpicius Galba, or commonly referred to as just Galba, was the 6th Roman emperor. In this video, I will be going over every Galba aureus with auction sales data over roughly the past 15 years. There are 60 unique coins that I found sales data for Galba, so quite a lot. Galba minted an obscene number of different aurii for only ruling for 7 months. I have seen people say that Otho minted a large amount, but data tells me Galba is the real minting menace, which is odd for the perception of him being so stingy. 40 of the coins listed appear in the RIC catalog as an aurii, whereas 20 of them are denarius designs as an aurii. Starting off with our most common Galba aureus is RIC 164 with 41% of all sales. RIC 164 had a range of sales from 7.7 all the way to 691.2 times the price of gold. The high was sold on March 5th, 2009 by Numismatic Ars Classica. It was auction 51, lot 206, and sold for 150,000 Swiss francs. The low was sold on January 18th, 2024 by Spink. It was auction 393, lot 3, and sold for 3,000 US dollars. As far as a trend year over year, starting from 2012, we see it increase a little bit, steady back down. If anything, it seems relatively flat. Not a whole lot to make up from there. It does seem like potentially in the past 5 years or so it's gone up, but nothing crazy. Being the most common coin, there's a solid 25 different auctioneers that have sold this coin in this data. The high end of these auctioneers is Genvensis, Numismatic Genvensis at 525 times the price of gold, followed by Numismatic Ars Classica at 167, and then Stack Bowers at 66.3. The low end, we have Solar and Lock at 8.8, Taller and Fau at 10.9, and HD Rouch at 14. If you're looking to buy a low-end version of this coin, you're likely looking at 7,000 to 18,000 US dollars, with a high-end coin likely ranging you 72,000 to 350,000 US dollars. Our next coin up is RIC 188. As you can see, a giant drop-off as far as how many have been sold. Only 5.9% of all sales. So RIC 188 had a range of sales of 17.7 all the way to 245.8 times the price of gold. The high was sold on November 21st, 2022 by Numismatic Ars Classica. It was auction 135, lot 276, and sold for 80,000 Swiss francs. The low was sold on September 7th, 2014 by Numismatic Namen. It was auction 21, lot 514, and sold for 3,250 euros. As pretty much every coin beyond the first coin, there's very little data to go over. We'll have years skipping, like 2011 has no sales. You're not going to see anything year over year that's really going to pique your interest. As far as high-end auctioneers, our highest is Numismatic Ars Classica at 194.4, followed by Bertolami at 134, Heritage at 89, and at the bottom end we have Numismatic Namen. Pretty sure that was their singular sale, and then Nomos at 32.6, and then Kunker at 43.6. So if you're looking to buy a low-end coin, probably going to be around the 14,000 to 32,000 US dollar range. With a high-end coin, probably going to be around 72,000 to 160,000 US dollars. Next coin up is RIC 223 with 4.2% of all sales. So RIC 223 had a range of sales from 22.3 all the way to 988.3 times the price of gold. The high was sold on May 9th, 2018 by Numismatic Ars Classica. It was auction 106, lot 913, and sold for 260,000 Swiss francs. The low was sold on February 14th, 2017. That was by Goldberg. It was auction 96, lot 2030, and sold for 5,250 US dollars. High-end auctioneer we have is Numismatic Ars Classica at 575, followed by Leo Numismatic at 138, Kunker at 121, and at the bottom end, Goldberg, I believe once again that was their singular sale, Classical Numismatic Group at 47.1, and Tyler and Fow at 52.4. If you're looking to buy a low-end version of this coin, probably going to range you in the 14,000 to 36,000 US dollars. And if you're looking to buy top dollar coin, probably going to be 180,000 to 550,000 US dollars. Next coin up is RIC 184 with 3.8% of all sales. RIC 184 had a range of sales from 15 all the way up to 1,393 times the price of gold. And the high was sold on March 21st, 2007 by Numismatic Ars Classica. It was auction 38, lot 33, and sold for 220,000 Swiss francs. The low was sold on November 16th, 2013 by Hirsch. It was auction 134, lot 52, and sold for 2,700 euros. The high-end auctioneers here is Numismatic Ars Classica at 646 times the price of gold, followed by Classical Numismatic Group at 30, Roma at 25, and then at the bottom end we have Fisher at 15, HT Rauch at 16.5, and Numismatic Naumann at 17.4. If you were looking to buy a low-end version of this coin, it's probably going to range you in the area of 10,000 to 21,000 US dollars, with a high-end coin by Numismatic Ars Classica basically ranging you 175,000 to 550,000 times the price of gold. Next coin up is RIC 213 with 2.5% of all sales. So RIC 213 had a range of sales of 11.3 all the way up to 609.7 times the price of gold. The high was sold on January 9th, 2007 by Classical Numismatic Group. It was auctioned Triton 10, lot 591, and sold for 72,500 US dollars. The low was sold on September 5th, 2019 by Heritage. It was auctioned 3,076. Lot 30,267, and sold for 3,200 US dollars. The high-end auctioneers, we'll just go through every single auctioneer because there's only 5. Classical Numismatic Group at 372, followed by Numismatic Ars Classica at 80.7, Leo Numismatic at 28.5, Jesus Vico at 21.8, and then Heritage with their singular sale at 11.3. So if you're looking to buy a low-end version of this coin, probably going to be around 7,000 to 21,000 US dollars, and a higher-end coin's probably going to be around 72,000 to 285,000 dollars. Next coin up is RIC 206 with 2.1% of all sales. So RIC 206 had a range of sales of 16.1 all the way up to 68.3 times the price of gold. The high was sold on October 7th, 2021 by Roma. It was auctioned 22, lot 691, and sold for 17,000 Great British pounds. The low was sold on September 30th, 2024 by Numismatic Ars Classica. It was auctioned 2024, lot 855, and sold for 5,500 Swiss francs. Only 3 auctioneers here, so we have Roma at the top at 55.1, Classical Numismatic Group in the middle at 40, and Numismatic Ars Classica at the bottom, I believe, with a singular sale. No, it's not a singular sale, but at the bottom, nonetheless, with 32.8. Not a place we see them very often. if you were looking to buy an RIC 206, not really a high versus a low version here, but you're probably looking at anywhere of a range from 10,000 to 55,000 US dollars. Next coin up is RIC 208, also with 2.1% of all sales. So RIC 208 had a range of sales from 11.3 all the way up to 269 times the price of gold. The high was sold on April 3rd, 1995 by Numismatic Ars Classica. It was auction 8, lot 781, and sold for 23,000 Swiss francs. The low was sold on October 18th, 2023 by Aurei of Galba. It was auction 418, lot 475, and sold for 4,000 euros. Only 4 auctioneers on this, the high end being Numismatic Ars Classica at 232 times the price of gold, followed by Roma at 45.5, Classical Numismatic Group at 42.4, and Aurei at the bottom with their single sale. If you're looking for a low-end version of this coin, it's likely going to range you 10,000 to 32,000 US dollars, with a high-end coin probably going to be in the range of 105 to 180,000 US dollars. Next coin up is RIC 233 with 2.1% of all sales. RIC 233 had a range of sales of 28 all the way up to 41.8 times the price of gold. The high was sold on August 15th, 2024 by Heritage. It was auction 3,118, lot 33,054, and sold for 16,100 US dollars. The low was sold on January 14th, 2015 by Classical Numismatic Group. It was auction 342, lot 534, and sold for 6,500 US dollars. Looking at it by auctioneer, we have 4 auctioneers for only 5 coins sold, so pretty much everyone sold 1. At the high end, we have Heritage with their singular sale, followed by Roma at 38.7, Classical Numismatic Group at 30.3, and Kunker at the bottom at 29.2. So for this coin, if you're looking to buy a low-end coin, or actually rather just any coin, because there really isn't a huge difference between auctioneers on all these, 29 all the way to 41. That's pretty tight based on what we've been seeing. You're probably going to be looking at about 18,000 to 30,000 US dollars if you want to get this specific coin. Next coin up we have is RIC 59, also with 2.1% of all sales. So RIC 59 had a range of sales of 27.2 all the way to 114.9 times the price of gold. The high was sold on October 21st, 2008 by Numismatic Ars Classica. It was auction 49, lot 146, and sold for 21,000 Swiss francs. The low was sold on May 8th, 2024 by Heritage. It was auction 3,115, lot 31,062, and sold for 11,000 US dollars. Breaking out by auctioneer, only 5 coins sold, 4 auctioneers, obviously not that much sold. Numismatic Ars Classica had the highest and only singular sale. Second place was Palumbo at 42.4, followed by Heritage at 40.2, and Classical Numismatic Group at 34.1. If you're looking to buy a low-end version of this coin, probably going to be around 18,000 to 32,000 US dollars, and a high-end, if you're buying it for Numismatic Ars Classica, it's probably going to be around 54 to 108,000 US dollars. Okay, so next, because Galba has so many different coins, just an obscene amount, I'm breaking it down by number of sales at this point, because there's so many with just very few sales. It doesn't make sense to really look at all of them individually. Plus, we'd be here forever. I think you can see this pie chart kind of showing you that story. So to start, we have coins with 4 sales. We have RIC 14, RIC 142, RIC 20, RIC 61, and that is it. So all of those only had a solid 4 sales. So we'll go ahead and look those ones up real quick. Give me one quick second. Okay. So, all right. So, out of all of these, they're all kind of all over the place. Even our what seems to be the highest one, which is RIC 142, it has a 310 above gold, or 310 times market gold, 245, and a 181. But then it has this really low drop off. So 61 also has a 340, a 150, but then it drops way down once we get to 2023. So I'd say higher valuation, probably RIC 142 and 61, and then some of the lower ones would be 20 and 14 specifically. We do also have a lot of coins that only had 3 sales. Those were RIC 216, RIC 222, RIC 229, RIC 231, 55, and that is it. So we've got quite a few with just 3 sales. So we'll go ahead and search those as well. As you can see by this, my appreciation of Galba has gone down quite a bit by this. I'm not going to lie. The man, he was put on coins by Trajan, so I thought, hey, he must have been a much better emperor than I thought he was. And I see this, and I'm like, my gosh, man, how could you do this? So we have one thing that obviously stands out, and that is RIC 222 is pretty rare, pretty valuable. We have 2 data points over 1,000 times the price of gold for RIC 222. So, wow, definitely one of the higher end coins. And that's not to say the other ones are super low. It looks like 59, RIC 59 and 231 are rather low, in the 20 to 40 range. But back over here at RIC 229, we have, 70 to 120. So, lower compared to some of the ones we've looked at. But still pretty high. 216 looks like it's also, kind of higher, but not anything like RIC 222. That might be our most valuable Galba coin, to be honest. But moving on to coins that just have 2 sales, only 2, count them 2. Starting off, we have RIC 1, RIC 110, RIC 119, 146, 147, 163, 18, 192, 195, 198, 225, and 225. And 227, rather. My bad. So, breaking all of these guys out. A lot of coins with 2 sales. Only 2 sales in this whole data range. So a lot of them are looking like dots at this point instead of actual plots on a graph. That's because, well, they were sold twice in the same year. That's why once we go to the bar graph, we'll just look at ones that have individual sales, and that's it. So ones that stand out, RIC 192 and 227 back in 06 and 07 had huge sales, potentially the biggest ones, honestly, that I think we've seen so far. RIC 192 getting up to 1,658 times the price of gold. And then plummeting. There must have been a really poor quality coin or something to make these things drop so far. But, probably the most consistent one is RIC 1 with, 291 all the way up to 450. Consistently high valued coin, at least for the 2 sales that it has. But some in this territory are pretty freaking low. If you look at 119, you know, we got 35 to 50. You look at 147, we're at 78. 150, 195 rather, 60, you know, 56 to 60. So really not that high a valuation, despite the fact that, hey, there's really not many of these coins out there. Or at least based on the data we see, there's really not that many. Now, lastly, we have coins with only a singular sale over this whole data period. Those are RIC 10, 104, 112, 123, 127, 134, 167, 180, 181, 185, 19, 197, 201, 205, 22, 23, 241, 264, 37, 46, 51, 56, 58, 62, 87, and 89. I excluded 134 from this data as it technically was not minted under Galba's reign, but it was during the Civil War, so get rid of that one from your memory. But all the rest of those are in this data. There's a lot of them. Way too many. Galba, what are you doing? Why are you minting so many? I don't understand. So we'll ignore everything we've seen on that bar graph and break it out just by ones that only have one sale. And we can see how those compare to each other. Obviously, we'll just be able to see a singular sale, so, you know, maybe one had a huge sale. But nonetheless, they've only been sold once, based on what I've seen. All right, I think I got them all pulled up. There's one that stands head and heels above the rest. That is RIC 89. Singular sale of 840, so pretty good. We have one other that's above 500. That's 51. But half of these are below 55. Half of them. Half. Count them, half. So despite very few sales, you know, a lot of these coins aren't many different than RIC 164, you know, the most common coin out there that had almost 100 sales over this data period when all these just had one. So once again, one thing I've been noticing continuously in all this data is, you know, rarity, or at least perceived rarity based on auction data, does not equate to valuable, which to me doesn't make much sense. Should just be a simple supply-demand kind of thing. There's low supply. It should be in high demand. It should be worth more. But that's not the case. That's not what we see with this data. So, you know, I would say potentially some of these are probably undervalued and could probably be selling for more than they did. Granted, there may be some other reason that they didn't. Maybe they're of poor quality. Maybe it has a test cut. I don't know. But yeah, it's just odd. The data is odd. So now we'll look at all of the coins grouped together. I'm going to get away from that screen because I don't want to see it. We'll see if there's any trends in the data over time to start. So 2012, 2013, basically the first couple of years where we really have a lot of data. You know, we're 74, creeping around, jumping around. If anything, you could argue it's gone down over time a little bit, the value of this coin. You might be hard-pressed to say that. I will say, at least since 2016 onward, clear downward trend here, from 216 all the way down to our local low of 36.8 times the price of gold in 2023, and a little jump up in 2024. But at least if you're comparing it to gold, valuation gone down quite a bit. And even if you're comparing it to the US dollar, gone down also. $64,000 average sale price in 2016. And in 2023, we're looking at $17,000. So, you know, you could argue, hey, maybe it's the rarity of the coins sold, but I mean, it's a Galba Aureus. They're all rare. So nonetheless, kind of strange. We do see a jump back up in 2024, but 57,000, still below that number in 2016. I would say probably undervalued. Now, if we look at The most expensive ones, or most valuable, I suppose, we see RIC 222, RIC 89, 192, and 227. If we look at all of those, we'll see 222. If I can find it here. I believe 222 was one that only had a couple sales. Yep, so RIC 222 had 3 sales. We'll remember 89 had 1 singular sale, 192 and 227. I don't see 227 here. 192 had 2 sales, 227, 2 sales. So I will say, at least according to this data, some of the rarer coins, which keep in mind this data could be wrong. A singular coin could have exchanged hand multiple times and made it look less rare than it actually is. But, these ones, very, very few sales, and they're at the top end of this. One I'd like to look at is 164 that had a majority of the sales. Actually, technically not majority, but a vast minority. So RIC 164 is right here. Bottom half of the pack, but once again, for being as common as it is compared to the others, it should be down lower if the thought process holds up, which clearly it doesn't. Next one would be 188 and 223. The amount of sales they have are dwarfed by the others, and 188's right here, and 223 I'm sure is not at the bottom, wherever it may be. There it is. So yeah, it's even at the higher end. So once again, nothing crazy that we haven't seen before. Sometimes rarity does not mean value. I think that's one thing that's gotten through my mind doing all of this. Now looking at it by auctioneers, no shock. Numismatic Ars Classical and Classical Numismatic Group account for a vast minority of the sales. We do have some others, Conquer, Heritage, yada, yada, yada. But one thing I want to look at, obviously we already looked at this on the other one, but I wanted to break it out bigger, see what auctioneers have the highest, average sale. It's Numismatic Genvensis, HD Rauch, Numismatic Ars Classica, actually Fruwald, that's a new one to be up there, and Leo Numismatic. At least Numismatic Ars Classica and Genvensis, kind of expected to be up there. Bottom end, Solar and Lock, Fisher, Sontag, Naumann, Anasta, Syncona, Gene Ellison. Those are kind of ones I feel like we see at the bottom. So nothing new and crazy there. But that wraps up this video. We've gone through almost all of the first 12 Caesars. I believe we've been through 8. We have Vitellius, Vespasian, Titus, and Domitian left. I actually do have the data for Julius Caesar as well, but I'm not going to make a separate video for him. But hoping to have Vitellius out here in the next couple of days. I have all the data for the other 3, so I'll try and spit those out as quick as possible as well. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.